There's something profoundly American about a man who built the world's largest retail empire while driving a pickup truck and getting his hair cut at the local barbershop for $12. This is the story of Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, a man whose life embodied both the promise and the contradictions of American capitalism in the 20th century. Our story begins on March 29, 1918, in Kingfisher, Oklahoma, a small town that few people outside the region had ever heard of. Sam Walton was born into a world still reeling from the First World War, to Thomas and Nancy Walton. His father was a farm mortgage agent, a difficult job made harder by the agricultural depression that preceded the Great Depression by nearly a decade. The family moved frequently during Sam's childhood, following Thomas Walton's work across Oklahoma and Missouri. They lived in Marshall, Shelbina, and eventually settled in Columbia, Missouri, when Sam was in high school. This constant relocation taught young Sam to adapt quickly, to make friends easily, and to read new situations with the speed necessary for survival in unfamiliar territory. But it was the Great Depression that truly shaped Sam Walton's character and future. The family wasn't destitute, but they were always aware of money, always conscious that security was fragile and could evaporate overnight. Sam's mother, Nancy, was the disciplinarian, the organizer, the one who kept the family functioning through difficult times. From her, Sam learned the value of hard work, organization, and relentless forward momentum. Sam showed entrepreneurial instincts early, though not in the dramatic way that some business legends describe. He had a newspaper route, which doesn't sound particularly remarkable until you understand how he approached it. While other boys delivered papers and collected payment, Sam studied the route, optimized his path, figured out how to serve the most customers in the least time, and turned what was meant to be pocket money into a genuinely profitable small business. He raised and sold rabbits. He delivered milk. Any opportunity to earn money, Sam pursued it with intensity that surprised adults around him. But this wasn't driven by greed or ambition in the conventional sense. It was driven by something deeper, the fear of poverty, the determination never to be vulnerable the way his family had been vulnerable during the Depression years. In high school, Sam was popular, athletic, and successful. He played football and basketball, was student body president, and seemed to embody the all-American boy ideal. But beneath the surface confidence was a young man who studied people carefully, who watched how groups functioned, who understood instinctively that success in any field required understanding what people wanted and finding ways to give it to them. He attended the University of Missouri, working his way through school with various jobs. He waited tables, delivered papers, and worked as a lifeguard. The pattern was consistent: identify opportunities, work harder than others, find efficiencies others missed, and save obsessively. By the time he graduated in 1940 with a degree in economics, Sam had saved enough money to feel, for perhaps the first time, genuinely secure. After college, Sam took a job with J.C. Penney as a management trainee in Des Moines, Iowa. This might seem like an odd choice for someone who would later revolutionize discount retail, but it was formative in ways that wouldn't become clear for years. J.C. Penney had a particular culture, one that emphasized customer service, employee satisfaction, and the idea that retail was fundamentally about relationships, not just transactions. Sam absorbed these lessons, but he was also learning what he didn't want to do. The corporate structure, the bureaucracy, the slow decision-making, these frustrated him. He could see inefficiencies everywhere, ideas that could improve operations, but the hierarchy made change slow and difficult. It was an important lesson. Large organizations resist innovation from within. World War II interrupted Sam's retail career. He served in the Army supervising security at aircraft plants and POW camps, never seeing combat but gaining experience managing people and complex operations under pressure. More importantly, he met Helen Robson during the war years, and they married in 1943. Helen came from a wealthy Oklahoma ranching family, and her father, Ellis Robson, would prove crucial to Sam's future. When Sam decided after the war that he wanted to own his own store, it was L.S. Robson who loaned him $20,000 to get started. This was a substantial sum in 1945, equivalent to several $100,000 today, and it gave Sam something many entrepreneurs never have: the capital to begin without crushing debt. With his father-in-law's loan and $5,000 of his own savings, Sam bought a Ben Franklin variety store franchise in Newport, Arkansas. Newport was a town of about 7,000 people, and the store Sam purchased was struggling, located on a side street, poorly managed, and losing customers to competitors. Most people would have seen a risky investment. Sam saw opportunity. What happened next would become the template for everything Sam Walton would build. He threw himself into the store with manic energy. He was there when it opened, there when it closed, and often there long after, studying inventory, analyzing sales patterns, thinking about layout and presentation. He visited every competitor within hundreds of miles, taking notes on what they did well, what they did poorly, and how he could learn from both. But Sam did something that distinguished him from other retailers. He experimented relentlessly. He tried self-service, which was still novel in the 1940s. He stayed open later than competitors. He offered products others didn't carry. He negotiated directly with manufacturers to cut out middlemen and reduce costs. And crucially, he cut prices. This last point is essential to understanding Sam Walton. He discovered something that would define his entire career. If you cut prices dramatically, even if your profit margin per item decreased, you could sell so much more volume that total profits actually increased. It sounds obvious now, but in the 1940s, it was revolutionary. Most retailers focused on margin per item. Sam focused on total profitability through volume. The Newport store became enormously successful. Within 5 years, it was the top-performing Ben Franklin store in the region, grossing over $250,000 annually, which was exceptional for a small-town variety store. Sam had proven his concept worked. He was ready to expand. And then disaster struck. Sam had leased the building for his store with a 5-year lease. He'd been so focused on running the business that he hadn't paid enough attention to the lease terms. When the lease came up for renewal, the landlord, who happened to own a competing store and had watched Sam's success with growing resentment, refused to renew. Instead, the landlord gave the location to his own son. Sam was devastated. He'd built a thriving business, proven his ideas worked, and now he was losing it all because of a lease detail he'd overlooked. It was a crushing blow, but it was also a crucial lesson. Sam would never again be careless about contracts, about ownership, about the legal foundations of business. The Newport experience taught him that success wasn't enough. You had to protect what you built. Forced to start over, Sam and Helen moved to Bentonville, Arkansas, a town even smaller than Newport, with a population of about 3,000. With money from selling the Newport store and another loan from his father-in-law, Sam bought another variety store, this time making sure he owned the building. Bentonville might have seemed like a step backward, but it had advantages Sam recognized immediately. It was in the northwest corner of Arkansas, near the borders with Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma. This meant he could draw customers from multiple states. It was also small enough that there wasn't intense retail competition. Sam could experiment without large competitors immediately crushing his innovations. The Bentonville store succeeded using the same principles Sam had developed in Newport: low prices, high volume, constant innovation, and relentless focus on customer satisfaction. But Sam was already thinking bigger. One store, even a successful one, had limits. Real wealth, real impact required scale. Through the 1950s, Sam opened more stores, partnering with his brother Bud Walton. They focused on small towns across Arkansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. These weren't markets large retailers wanted. Towns with populations of 5,000 or 10,000 people couldn't support big department stores. But Sam had a different vision. He saw that small-town residents currently had terrible retail options. They either shopped at local stores with limited selection and high prices, or they drove to larger cities for better shopping, which was inconvenient and time-consuming. If someone could offer big city selection and prices in small towns, they'd capture an enormous underserved market. But there was a problem. The variety store franchise model Sam was working within had limitations. Franchises had rules about pricing, about suppliers, about operations. Sam wanted more freedom to experiment, to cut prices below what franchises allowed, to negotiate directly with manufacturers. He needed to break free from the franchise model entirely. In 1962, at the age of 44, Sam Walton opened the first Walmart discount city in Rogers, Arkansas. The name itself was pragmatic, Walton's Mart, shortened to Walmart. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, just a clear statement of what it was and who owned it. That first Walmart embodied everything Sam had learned over 20 years in retail. It was located in a small town that large retailers ignored. It offered dramatically lower prices than competitors. It focused on high volume and fast inventory turnover. And it was relentlessly focused on efficiency, cutting every possible cost that didn't directly benefit customers. The timing was significant. 1962 was the same year Kmart, Target, and Woolco all launched their discount retail concepts. Discount retailing was clearly emerging as a major trend. But while Kmart and Target focused on urban and suburban markets, Sam focused on rural America, on the small towns others overlooked. This strategic choice was brilliant. In small towns, Walmart faced less competition. It could establish market dominance before competitors arrived. And because these markets were too small for multiple discount retailers, once Walmart established itself in a town, it was very difficult for competitors to follow. The early Walmart stores were nothing fancy. They were basic, utilitarian buildings focused entirely on function over form. The floors were concrete. The displays were simple metal racks. The checkout counters were basic and efficient. Everything that didn't directly contribute to low prices was eliminated. Sam ran these early stores with hands-on intensity that became legendary. He visited every store regularly, often showing up unannounced. He'd walk the aisles, talk to customers, question employees about inventory and pricing, and look for any inefficiency or opportunity for improvement. He famously kept a yellow legal pad with him at all times, writing down observations, ideas, and things that needed fixing. But Sam's real genius wasn't just hard work or attention to detail. It was his willingness to learn from anyone and everyone. He visited competitors constantly, not to copy them exactly but to find good ideas he could adapt and improve. He talked to employees, believing that people doing the actual work often had better ideas than managers. He created a culture where experimentation was encouraged and failure was tolerated if you learned from it. One of Sam's most important innovations was his approach to employee relations. He called Walmart employees associates rather than workers or employees. This wasn't just semantics. Sam genuinely believed that if employees felt invested in the company's success, they'd work harder and smarter. He created profit-sharing programs, stock purchase plans, and bonus systems that gave associates real financial stake in Walmart's performance. Critics would later argue that these programs didn't prevent low wages or that they were designed to discourage unionization, and there's truth to those criticisms. But it's also true that Sam genuinely believed in them and that they created a culture where many Walmart associates did feel valued and invested in the company's success. Through the 1960s, Walmart expanded steadily across Arkansas and into neighboring states. By 1970, there were 38 Walmart stores with sales of $44.2 million. Sam decided to take the company public, selling stock to raise capital for faster expansion. This decision would eventually make Sam Walton the richest man in America, but it also meant sharing ownership and control with outside shareholders. The public offering was successful, and the capital it raised allowed Walmart to accelerate expansion dramatically. But going public also meant scrutiny, pressure for quarterly results, and expectations that sometimes conflicted with Sam's long-term vision. It was a trade-off, and Sam managed it by maintaining enough voting control to make final decisions while still answering to shareholders. The 1970s were transformative for Walmart. The company expanded from 38 stores to 276 stores by 1980. Sales grew from $44 million to over $1 billion. Walmart became a regional powerhouse, dominant across the South and expanding into the Midwest. But this growth brought new challenges. Managing hundreds of stores required systems and infrastructure that hadn't been necessary with dozens of stores. Sam invested heavily in distribution centers, building large warehouses strategically located to serve clusters of stores efficiently. This allowed Walmart to control its own logistics, reducing dependence on suppliers and cutting costs further. Even more importantly, Sam invested in technology. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, when most retailers were still using manual inventory systems, Walmart was pioneering computerized inventory tracking, satellite communications between stores and headquarters, and sophisticated data analysis of sales patterns. This technological investment was risky and expensive. Many people thought Sam was wasting money on unnecessary complexity. But Sam understood something crucial: information was power. If Walmart knew exactly what was selling, where it was selling, and how quickly inventory was moving, the company could optimize purchasing, distribution, and pricing in ways competitors couldn't match. The technology also enabled Walmart to pressure suppliers in unprecedented ways. Because Walmart had detailed sales data, it could tell manufacturers exactly what was selling and demand better prices, faster delivery, or specific product modifications. Suppliers who didn't comply risked losing access to Walmart's growing customer base. This brings us to one of the most controversial aspects of Sam Walton's legacy: Walmart's impact on suppliers and small businesses. As Walmart grew larger, it gained enormous leverage over manufacturers. It could demand lower prices, faster delivery, and better terms, and because Walmart represented such a large percentage of many manufacturers' business, they had little choice but to comply. Small retailers couldn't compete. When Walmart entered a town, local stores often struggled or closed. The downtown business districts that had been centers of community life for generations began to empty as shoppers went to Walmart instead. Jobs at local stores were replaced by jobs at Walmart, often at lower wages and with less stability. Sam's response to these criticisms was consistent. Walmart benefited consumers by offering lower prices and better selection. If small retailers couldn't compete, that wasn't Walmart's fault. It was market competition functioning as it should. Customers voted with their wallets, and they chose Walmart. There's truth to this argument, but it's also incomplete. Walmart's scale allowed pricing strategies that weren't simply about efficiency. The company could sell certain items below cost, using them as loss leaders to attract customers, then make up the losses on other products. Small retailers couldn't match this strategy. They couldn't afford to lose money on any items. The debate about Walmart's impact on communities, suppliers, and workers would intensify as the company grew larger, but in the 1980s, as Walmart was still expanding and Sam was still building his empire, these concerns were mostly drowned out by the company's success. By 1985, Forbes magazine named Sam Walton the richest man in America, with a net worth estimated at $2.8 billion. The man who had started with a small variety store in Newport, Arkansas, who had lost everything once and rebuilt, who had focused on small towns nobody else wanted, was now wealthier than anyone in the country. Sam's reaction to this recognition was characteristically contradictory. He was proud of what he'd built but uncomfortable with the attention and the wealth. He continued living in the same modest house in Bentonville, driving his old pickup truck, getting his hair cut at the same barbershop he'd used for decades, and eating breakfast at the local diner. This wasn't an affectation. Sam genuinely didn't care about luxury or status symbols. He cared about the business, about making Walmart more efficient, about opening more stores, about driving prices lower. The wealth was almost accidental, a byproduct of building something he believed in rather than the goal itself. But Sam's frugality extended beyond personal lifestyle to corporate culture. Walmart headquarters in Bentonville was famously Spartan. Executives shared hotel rooms on business trips. The company cafeteria served basic, cheap food. Offices were plain and functional. Every dollar saved on overhead was a dollar that could be passed to customers through lower prices or reinvested in expansion. This culture of extreme frugality had benefits and costs. It kept Walmart lean and efficient. It reinforced the company's commitment to low prices. But it also created pressure on wages, benefits, and working conditions. If the company obsessed over every penny in overhead, why would it be generous with employee compensation? Through the late 1980s, Walmart continued expanding, entering new states and regions. The company developed the Walmart Supercenter concept, combining a discount store with a full grocery store under one roof. This was another revolutionary idea. If customers could buy groceries, clothing, electronics, and household goods all in one trip, they'd save time and shop more efficiently. Supercenters became enormously successful, and they also escalated Walmart's impact on communities. Now Walmart wasn't just competing with discount retailers and department stores. It was competing with grocery stores, which had been local institutions in many small towns for generations. The consolidation of retail into single large stores accelerated. Sam also launched Sam's Club in 1983, a warehouse club concept competing with Price Club, later Costco. Sam's Club sold bulk products to small businesses and consumers willing to pay a membership fee for access to ultra-low prices. This expanded Walmart's market reach into wholesale and business-to-business sales. By 1990, Walmart had become the largest retailer in America, surpassing Sears, which had held that position for decades. The company had over 1,500 stores, sales exceeding $32 billion, and employed more than 275,000 associates. Sam Walton, now 72 years old, had built something unprecedented in American retail history. But Sam was diagnosed with bone cancer in the early 1990s, and he knew his time was limited. He began working on his autobiography, Made in America, which would be published in 1992. The book was part memoir, part business philosophy, and part defense of Walmart against growing criticism. In the book, Sam articulated his core beliefs: that customers deserved the lowest possible prices, that hard work and innovation were more important than credentials or background, that small towns deserved the same retail options as cities, and that business success came from treating employees well, listening to customers, and constantly seeking improvement. He also addressed criticisms directly. He defended Walmart's impact on small businesses by arguing that consumers benefited from lower prices and better selection. He defended the company's wage policies by pointing to profit sharing and stock options. He defended Walmart's pressure on suppliers by arguing it made American manufacturing more efficient and competitive. Whether you find these defenses persuasive depends largely on your values and priorities. If you prioritize consumer benefit and efficient markets, Sam's arguments are compelling. If you prioritize community stability, worker security, and local ownership, they're less satisfying. Sam Walton died on April 5, 1992, at the age of 74. He received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President George H.W. Bush shortly before his death, recognition of his impact on American business and culture. The outpouring of grief from Walmart associates was genuine and widespread. Whatever else Sam Walton had been, he'd been a leader who inspired loyalty and devotion from many people who worked with him. His death marked a transition for Walmart. Sam's son, Rob Walton, became chairman, and the company continued growing under professional management. But something intangible was lost. Sam had been Walmart's conscience, the living embodiment of its culture and values. Without him, the company would face harder questions about its responsibilities to workers, communities, and suppliers. The Walmart that emerged after Sam's death became even larger, eventually becoming the world's largest company by revenue. It expanded internationally, entering markets across Asia, Latin America, and Europe. It became the largest private employer in the United States and in multiple other countries. The Walmart supply chain became a force shaping global manufacturing, particularly in China. But the controversies also intensified. Labor activists criticized Walmart's wages and opposition to unions. Community groups protested Walmart store openings, arguing they destroyed local businesses. Environmental activists targeted Walmart's energy consumption and waste. The company that Sam built became a lightning rod for debates about capitalism, globalization, and corporate responsibility. The Walton family became one of the wealthiest families in the world. At various points, multiple Waltons have appeared on lists of the world's richest individuals. The wealth concentration raised questions about inequality, about whether anyone should have that much money, about the social implications of such vast fortunes. Sam himself would likely have been uncomfortable with these debates, not because he was unaware of them but because he fundamentally believed that Walmart's benefits outweighed its costs. He believed that millions of working-class Americans could afford things they otherwise couldn't because of Walmart's low prices. He believed that jobs, even at lower wages, were better than no jobs in economically depressed rural areas. He believed that market competition, not government regulation or union power, was the best way to serve consumers. These beliefs reflected Sam's generation and background. He'd grown up during the Depression, seen real poverty and desperation, and built a business that he believed helped ordinary people live better lives. The critiques of Walmart often came from people with different experiences and priorities, people who valued community stability, worker rights, and environmental protection differently than Sam did. What's undeniable is the scale of Sam's achievement. From a single variety store in a small Arkansas town, he built the largest retail operation in human history. He fundamentally changed how Americans shop, how products are manufactured and distributed, and how retail business is conducted globally. No one else in retail has had comparable impact. The strategies Sam pioneered, everyday low pricing, operational efficiency, technological innovation, supplier pressure, small-town focus, have become standard practice across retail. Amazon's approach to retail, often portrayed as revolutionary, actually builds on foundations Sam laid decades earlier. The obsession with efficiency, the use of technology and data, the pressure on suppliers, the willingness to sacrifice margins for volume, these are all fundamentally Walmartian principles. Sam's leadership style was also influential. He created a culture of experimentation, encouraged ideas from employees at all levels, visited stores constantly to stay connected to operations, and maintained accessibility despite his position and wealth. These practices have been studied and copied by business leaders across industries. His Saturday morning meetings at Walmart headquarters became legendary. Executives, managers, and associates gathered weekly to review performance, share ideas, recognize achievements, and address problems. These meetings were informal, energetic, and intensely focused on operational details. They kept the company agile and responsive even as it grew enormous. Sam's famous sundown rule required that questions or concerns raised by customers or associates be addressed by the end of the day they were raised. This created urgency and responsiveness throughout the organization. Problems didn't linger. Issues were resolved quickly. This operational discipline was crucial to managing a rapidly growing company. His willingness to admit mistakes and change course was also significant. When something didn't work, Sam didn't cling to it stubbornly. He acknowledged failure, learned from it, and moved on. This created a culture where people weren't afraid to try new approaches, knowing that honest failures were learning opportunities rather than career-ending mistakes. But Sam was also ruthlessly competitive. He monitored competitors obsessively, always looking for advantages or threats. He expected total commitment from senior managers, and those who couldn't maintain the intense pace or meet his standards were replaced. The folksy, friendly demeanor coexisted with steely determination to win in every market, against every competitor. This duality, the friendly small-town merchant who was also a relentless business warrior, captures Sam Walton's essential complexity. He genuinely liked people, enjoyed conversations with store associates and customers, and believed in the dignity of ordinary working people. He also built a business machine that pressured suppliers ruthlessly, undercut competitors mercilessly, and prioritized efficiency over almost everything else. The physical legacy Sam left in Bentonville is fascinating. The town he chose for his headquarters because it was small and inexpensive has become a boom town, headquarters of the world's largest company. Crystal Bridge's Museum of American Art, funded by the Walton family, brings world-class art to Northwest Arkansas. The Walmart home office campus sprawls across the landscape. Suppliers have opened offices in Bentonville to be near Walmart's buyers. Yet downtown Bentonville still has Sam's original 5-and-dime store, preserved as the Walmart Museum. You can visit the office where Sam worked, see the old pickup truck he drove, and walk through exhibits explaining Walmart's history. It's a pilgrimage site for business students, Walmart associates, and people fascinated by the American entrepreneurial story. Sam's autobiography, Made in America, remains widely read and studied. It's both a business memoir and a manifesto, explaining not just what Sam did but why he did it and what he believed about business, competition, and capitalism. The book is revealing in what it emphasizes and what it downplays, offering insights into Sam's self-perception and values. He dedicated significant space to explaining his commitment to associates, describing profit-sharing programs, stock options, and his belief that treating employees well was good business, not just ethics. He discussed his competitive fire, his obsession with visiting stores, his love of flying his own plane to reach distant Walmart locations. He celebrated entrepreneurship, innovation, and the American dream of building something from nothing. What he discussed less was Walmart's impact on communities, the pressure on suppliers, or the criticisms that were already emerging in the early 1990s. This wasn't necessarily dishonesty. Sam genuinely believed that Walmart's benefits were so obvious and significant that the criticisms were misguided or motivated by competitors' self-interest. In many ways, Sam Walton embodied the paradoxes of American capitalism in the late 20th century. He created enormous value for consumers and shareholders. He provided jobs to hundreds of thousands of people. He demonstrated that innovation and efficiency could transform industries. He proved that someone from modest background, with enough determination and intelligence, could build something unprecedented. He also concentrated enormous wealth, disrupted communities, pressured workers and suppliers, and created business practices that prioritized efficiency over other values. Whether you see him as hero or villain, visionary or destructive force, depends largely on which of these aspects you prioritize. Most likely, the truth is that he was both, simultaneously and inseparably. The same drive that built Walmart also created the pressures on workers and communities. The same focus on efficiency that enabled low prices also led to supplier pressure and wage constraints. The same competitive fire that defeated rivals also disrupted traditional retail and community structures. As we consider Sam Walton's legacy decades after his death, what stands out is the sheer scale and durability of what he built. Walmart continues dominating global retail. The Walton family remains enormously wealthy and influential. The business practices Sam pioneered continue shaping how products are made, distributed, and sold worldwide. But the debates about Walmart's impact, about whether its benefits outweigh its costs, about corporate responsibility and the proper role of business in society, these continue as well. Sam would likely have been impatient with these debates, seeing them as distractions from the core mission of serving customers with low prices. Yet the questions persist precisely because Walmart's impact is so large. When a single company employs millions of people, when it shapes manufacturing across continents, when it transforms communities and markets wherever it operates, questions about its responsibilities extend beyond simple profit maximization. The boy from Depression-era Oklahoma who sold newspapers and milk, who built a retail empire from small-town Arkansas, who became the richest man in America while driving a pickup truck and eating at local diners, who believed passionately in low prices and free markets, who created enormous wealth and enormous disruption simultaneously, this was Sam Walton. His story is fundamentally American: the self-made man, the entrepreneur building something from nothing, the innovator disrupting established industries, the believer in competition and markets as forces for progress. It's also a story that reveals tensions within American capitalism, between efficiency and community, between consumer benefit and worker security, between growth and stability. Whether Sam Walton represents the best or worst of American business, whether Walmart is primarily a benefit or a problem, whether the values he embodied should be celebrated or questioned, these are matters people will continue debating. What's beyond debate is that Sam Walton changed the world, that his impact continues shaping how billions of people shop and live, and that understanding his story is essential to understanding modern capitalism. From the first variety store in Newport to thousands of Walmart locations worldwide, from a $20,000 loan to hundreds of billions in annual revenue, from small-town Arkansas to global dominance, Sam Walton's journey encompasses triumph and controversy, innovation and disruption, extraordinary success and profound questions about what success means and what it costs. The pickup truck Sam drove, the yellow legal pad he carried, the Saturday morning meetings, the store visits, the relentless focus on prices and efficiency, these weren't just personal quirks. They were expressions of a worldview, a belief system about business, competition, and value. They were Sam Walton's way of building something he believed would make the world better by making good products affordable to everyone. Whether he succeeded in that mission, whether the world Walmart helped create is better than what came before, whether the costs were worth the benefits, these are questions each of us must answer based on our own values and priorities. But there's no question that Sam Walton's vision, for better and worse, shaped the world we live in today, and that his story, with all its complexity and contradiction, remains endlessly fascinating and deeply important to understanding modern America.